Open the site thispersondoesnotexist, hit refresh, and a photorealistic human face appears that belongs to nobody. No camera ever captured it. That face is the work of StyleGAN, from Karras and colleagues at NVIDIA in 2018. Now, plenty of networks could generate faces before this one. What made StyleGAN a landmark was not just realism, it was control. You could dial the pose, the age, the hair, the lighting, almost like sliders. Here's how they pulled that off. To understand the trick, follow a single generated image as it gets built, layer by layer, inside the generator. Everything begins with random noise, but StyleGAN does not feed that noise straight in the way an ordinary generator does. First, a small mapping network transforms it into an intermediate style vector, usually called W. This step disentangles the messy raw noise into something the generator can actually steer. Then comes the signature move. That style vector gets injected at every single layer of the generator through adaptive instance normalization, a mechanism people shorten to ADOIN. So style is not set once at the start, it is applied again and again as the image grows in resolution. Alongside the style, a little extra random noise is added at each layer too. This handles the tiny stochastic details that make a face look real, the exact placement of individual hairs, freckles, pores, the things you would never want to specify by hand but that sell the illusion. Building all of this from coarse to fine is the whole point. The picture starts as a rough low-resolution sketch and sharpens step by step into a full photorealistic face, growing in size at each stage, with the style controlling what appears at each scale along the way. That progression is why the earliest layers and the latest layers end up owning completely different kinds of detail. So why redesign the generator at all? Line StyleGAN up against a plain vanilla GAN and the payoff is obvious. A vanilla generative adversarial network takes one random noise vector and pushes it straight through the generator into an image. Can produce great pictures, but the noise is entangled. Turning one knob shifts many things at once, so you get very little clean control over what actually changes in the output. StyleGAN separates that. Because the style is mapped first and then injected layer by layer, you get control at every scale independently. Coarse layers set pose and overall face shape. Middle layers set features like eyes and nose. Fine layers set color and texture. Look, that separation is exactly what makes style mixing possible, blending attributes from two different faces. Strip StyleGAN down and three ideas carry the whole thing. Map the noise into a style space, then inject it per layer. That intermediate style vector, applied through adaptive normalization at every level, is the core departure from a normal generator and the source of all the control. Different layers own different scales. Because style enters coarse to fine, early layers govern big structural things while later layers govern fine appearance, which is why you can adjust pose separately from hair color. Photorealistic and controllable together. Earlier models tended to give you one or the other, but StyleGAN delivered strikingly realistic faces you could also steer, and later versions cleaned up the leftover water droplet artifacts, cementing it as a genuine milestone in controllable image synthesis that still shapes generative models today. Alright, let us lock in the essentials. StyleGAN, from NVIDIA in 2018, generates hyperrealistic human faces and powers the famous thispersondoesnotexist demo. Instead of feeding raw noise in, a mapping network turns it into a style vector that gets injected at every layer of the generator. Because style enters layer by layer, coarse features like pose and fine features like texture become separately controllable, which is exactly what enables style mixing between two faces. That combination of photorealism and control made it a landmark in generative imaging. Want more of these AI ideas unpacked without the jargon? That is exactly what we do over at Standarity.com. See you there.